Hello everybody. So today I'm gonna showcase you the robustness and the speed of the pool score by implementing a simple game in terminal for a couple of clients connected to it, and to showcase you how the pool score actually bridges all of them between each other and showing the results on the output. So for that I've got some idea. It won't be a game, it will be a little simulation that I called flask filling. So basically, we'll have a flask that will be getting filled by water, and once it's overfilled, the program will stop. So we'll have like some sort of matrix, and the water will represent water by some characters, and by time the flask will be getting filled, and once it starts overflowing, the program will stop. So the same picture, the same state of the flask will be shown to all the clients connected to the room with this flask. So, so let's first try to implement the algorithm. So the algorithm will work the following way. We'll try to we'll define a matrix with a custom amount of row and columns, and the amount of drops, so amount of water drops will be defined randomly on each row, and the water will be getting filled like from bottom up. So as I showed you, that the first level will be filled, and the second and the third, and blah 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 till the end of the flask, till the top of the flask. We can make it even more complex by showing how water drops are flowing into the flask and then like getting filled. But just for the sake of simplicity, we'll just solve it by filling each level. So randomly, we'll be assigning water drops on the levels, and once the level is done, once it's filled, we'll go to the next level. We'll fill it, the third level, the fourth, the fifth, the ends, till the ends. So let's try to implement this thing and go. So let's go on to the pool score. The pool score will have to be packaged for user to be able to integrate it into his project. So what we'll do the following. We'll got rid of the main statement. Instead, we'll just say, sorry, the server. I mean the server. Here, so here at the bottom of the main statement, we have the choice handler, which we will not need, or actually, we may need it. We'll add a different feature to it to start a game, and to start a game for all the clients from the host, and to start seeing the Flask process. Yeah, for that I think that would be fancier if we just wrap it up in a function like func start client. Start client. Alright. So let's create a game inside of the pool score, which is not a good idea. let's create another project. Actually, let's keep it in here. Let's keep it in here. That's fine. That's fine. Game Flask game. I'll just move it to to a separate project, and then we'll link the game to the pool score because the game shouldn't be in the pool score project. So for that, Flask Flask game. Let's create them. And let's go called Flask game. Alright, let's implement the main function for it. So let's start. So as I said, we'll have to define our flask. So it'll have to be drawn in some way. We can draw it this way. We can have like the borders drawn by the slashes in the bottom, like this. I think that should be okay. And then we'll be filling the bottom with the asterisks. So let's define some states for our flask. So let's define some states for it, like constant, like sides maybe, like flask side. The flask side will be simple slash, then flask base shall be the base. Then you can define water, can be, so I said, an asterisk. And then you can also check updates. You can also check each row for emptiness. I think that should be also okay. The emptiness, this. So basically, it's we check whether a cell in a row is empty or not. So in the main function, we can also use like flex string var, let's say height. Let's define properties actually. Let's define height and oh, that's okay. We shouldn't. So the height, that was the second parameter. The second was the actual, yeah. So the height, width, the height we define. So here we'll pass the height as an argument. Here's a default value. Let's make it 10. String integers. There's something like integer var, yeah. 10 and the explanation. As you can see, the first one is a pointer, so the first one was the pointer. The value and the usage. Alright, so the first one was the pointer. My bad. Height, the second one was the name. The name will be height. Third one was the value, default value. And the usage, height, flask. So the second one will be the same thing. Just pass the width, address of the width variable. So the name of argument that will be passing from the terminal. That yeah, the width can be 10 also, and the height of the width of Flask. Was it star? And we can also define a maximum amount of drops of water drops. Can also define that. Um, Maximum water drops. Let's set it to 0 initially. So drops max uh, water drops. So water drops, let's say it's 10, right? Let's say it's 10. So next we'll have to define our flask, which is a matrix. We'll use it by using the function called make. Well, so we'll pass the flask height, So then we have to iterate through each height and initialize our columns. Make also, so for every column we'll have for every row we'll have a list. We'll have a list of string, and we'll pass the width. We'll pass the width. So something is wrong in here. So yes, that's actually okay. So let's initialize each cell. So J, the range is flask I, the range is flask I, and the flask IJ will be empty. The variable that we define in here. Then, after defining our flask, we gotta define the current amount of water drops to be filled in a row. So it will be, let's call it water drops. And also we'll have to have a speed for the process of filling the tank. So for that we'll use speed and time, let's say in milliseconds. Let's say the speed will be 200 milliseconds. 200 milliseconds. So I think we define, right? Yes. So what should we do now? Let's say, I think we should define probably a main loop for the water flow. So for the filling. So let's define it like, let's put a guard. If water drops is less than or equal to maximum water drops, then we should randomly choose where the water drops falls in. So let's say it's a drop position. Drop position, randomize int n, and it will be Flask with, which is in our case is with. Random is not imported. Let's import it. So all right. So now we have our water position. Now we have to actually fill. Filling will be. We should go like by the height. So it will be the flask height. Say. So in here we check if flask I in the drop position is empty. We say flask I drop position is water. Water is the asterisk defined in the const. And we break. This is what we do. So we basically check whether the amount of water drops, the current water drops, is less than or equal than the maximum water drops. And then we set up our drop position as a random number for the row. Let's say we take one of these, one of the cells of the row. Then we fill our fill the row, and if we felt if the cell was empty, we set up the cell's value as a water, and we break from the loop. Okay. And we of course we need to increment the amount of water drops. So I think it's here that would be better. So water drops. So in here we'll need to draw our flask. Draw the flask. Or actually redraw the flask. Draw the flask and if indeed gives a print ln. And also not imported. The speed. The speed for speed will have to wait here. So we can use sleep function. Just the speed. Yeah. So once we fill our row, so row cell, which is slip, we'll put time sleep to the speed. We'll be waiting for 200 milliseconds before starting the next iteration of the loop. And once the water drops is max, I'll run out of the loop and we say the tank was filled. Say the flask is now full. The flask is now full. Let me check. So yeah. So maximum amount of drop. Amount of water drops. I think that should be okay. Let's define our Flask function for redrawing the Flask. Let's call it draw Flask. It'll accept the matrix that we have. And what now? We'll have to print. We'll have to print. So basically, the top, the top of the Flask is like 1/ the width, and there's a slash. And there should be a space in between. Okay, so say what was the value of Flask side? So we have to draw our first slash and put the spaces, the empty spaces in between, and then we draw does a slash. Okay, so for that we'll say println slash, and then from here we'll start a loop. Let's say not quite sure. Was there? So no. So basically, when we start drawing our Flask, I mean, we don't want to make it in a way so that every time the iteration goes through, like a new version of the previous Flask is printed out, right? We want to redefine, actually redraw the Flask. For that, Golang has a specific feature. It has a string that actually clears out uh, the whole terminal. The string was. I should check the value of the string. So it was 033H 033 2. So okay, 033H 033 2. Huh. It's not the bracket's J actually, and close the bracket. So when you print out this specific string, it clears out the whole terminal. So what was written there is simply cleared out, and whatever you draw, in our case the Flask, will be redrawn in the terminal. So we'll say println, take this thing, put in here. So now we need to draw the Flask from the top to the bottom. For that we'll say for I 0 less than len of the Flask. So the amount, this thing, len Flask means the amount of rows we have. So in our case the height. You can even say, I think, height. We don't have height. Yeah, so let's say for that we'll print the Flask side. This is what I showed actually before. So first we print out our first slash. So after we should print whatever in between. It can be empty. It can be filled with asterisks. So here, right here, we're filling the Flask levels with our water symbol. So it should be J should be less than the length of Flask I, meaning that the amount of columns. And here say println Flask I and j. FMTP println, say in here Flask side. We print out the last one. So what we are doing here, so first we're trying to print, we're printing the first slash and we're printing in what's in between. So what's in the row, actually the actual values, the actual values of the row, and we print out the last slash. So after that, so we need to draw the base of the Flask. The base of the Flask. That is so. Just there's no need actually for iterating because at the bottom we don't have anything. You can say fmtp println, say simply like %s. We can put an new line. We can say Flask side, the first slash. Then we can use a function in the strings package called repeat. Also not imported. Strings. The function will repeat the string. Repeat. It'll be just the Flask base will also define it, right? The Flask base and the number of times will be then Flask, let's say. It doesn't matter, it can be 0. So in here we're printing out the base. The base will be the first slash, and we're printing out the Flask sides, right? Flask side as the first character, and then we're repeating. Then we're printing out the Flask base. The amount of times equals the amount of columns. And also the last one will also be the Flask side. That's the problem. Flask side. Too many arguments. Why? Yeah. Flask side. So we printed out our Flask's bottom. So I mean, I could have done it the other way around. We could make it this way. We could leave the Flask bottom, make it this way, but that would look very silly. Flask base, or we don't need the Flask base. Let's have only the Flask side. Let's make the bottom as this. That will look better. Because otherwise it seems like the whole, the bottom is just empty. So redraw the Flask. So let's go through it again. We're eliminating the whole message on the terminal. We're iterating through the amount of rows. We're printing out the Flask side. We're printing out the contents of each row. Printing out the Flask side again on the bottom. That should be okay now. That should be alright. So let's say draw Flask and provide and pass our Flask. Pass our Flask. That should look better. So that should work. What's wrong with the brand? Was it? Where's our rand thing? So here, right? Rand. No, the rand is mass. Ah, it's inside the mass. All right. Cool. Let's run it. Let's go to Flask game. Go around minute. Go. Sync. Ah. Right. Go around minute. Go. Let's provide our height. Let's make it 10. Oh, but we said maximum water drops is 10, right? The thing is that the matrix is maximum water drops shouldn't be 10. It should be all the values of the matrix. So it's rectangle. So it's actually an area. So we'll multiply the height by the width. So we should say, by the way, that won't work. First, we need to say flag parse. Okay, so in here, we say max water drops is height multiplied by width. So the area of the flask will be the maximum amount of drops. So when we'll have our, let's say, flask, we have flask with the height of 10, the width of 10, the maximum amount of drops is 100. So 10 per each row. Set right. So the width, the width will be, let's say, let's make it little. Just let's check it. Package command line arguments is not a main package. What? Are we passing the arguments properly? I'm just curious whether it was one dash or not. Just let's try to maybe check it. Golang pass arguments terminal. Finding it. It's not always using operating system package. Go run main.go. I think it's the height 20 with 20. Command line arguments. Anyways, let's just run main.go. It's fine. What is it saying? What's the problem? Go run main.go. Command line arguments is not the main package. It's not the main package. It's pretty strange, huh? Let's keep the height. Okay, let's just keep the height on width as 10. Package command line arguments is not a main package. So basically my bad, I just didn't see it. The package name was not main, so we actually must have the package name main to be able to call main function, so the problem was not in passing the arguments. It should work. This thing should be main. So let's say go run main.go, provide height as 5, the width is 5. Let's check. What? Panic runtime index out of range was where in the line 69. Flask IJ. Flask IJ in the line 69. So it seems like we're running out of the bound. X5 was X5. So it shouldn't be. So it shouldn't be this way though. So the draw flask is. So we're drawing the flask side, but what's the problem in here? From 0. Ah, man. Didn't see it. There's a problem here. It's positive formatting directive. Ah, it's fine. Ah, printf. Go run, let's run it. What is this? What is this? Why is it printing the things? This way. I think maybe that should be format is a. Well, I think that should be print. Yeah, that should be print. Again, the same thing with 033 H slash 033 2J. But that should be okay. That's the problem. So I think so. The algorithm works properly. It's filling out the flask, but I mean it shouldn't print it this way though. It should. The problem is the draw flask. The problem is the draw flask. So we're printing. We should print not ln it. I'm used to the println function, so whenever I use print, I automatically run println. So yes, but that's that now. That looks ugly. Flask is not full. Maybe 10. There now, it's not. Yes, now it's what is this? So as you can see, the water drops are getting filled. Flasks, the flask should be filled now. And pop out the message. Also strange. It's also not okay. Let's say it's empty. Okay, do we have empty? Yes. No, it's a bit weird. That's a bit weird. Let's try to go through this again. So draw flask, where that's proper. Actually, that's why as you can see, the flask is not like double printed. I mean, it's getting redrawn again and again. You see the blinks. So when we're printing the string, the terminal is getting erased. The terminal's value is just wiped away, and the new value is printed. So Flask. So just go through it again. So I less than I plus plus print the lens Flask side. That's alright. Flask J Flask I. That's also okay. It's also okay. So we print our IJ Flask, print Flask side, print S, and that's also fine. Flask side, let's say, yes, that should be actually Flask base that we just deleted. That should have been like these things. That's fine. Okay, let's keep it as Flask side. That should not be a problem. The problem is, let's keep the Flask base. Say it's Flask base is this. Flask base. Why I can see the Flask base. Ah, Flask base. But still, doesn't matter. Flask side. Let's give this Flask side. And the same thing, so it seems like there's some padding in between each rows. So I just spent a bit of time on that problem. So I identified that there's some problems regarding the indices. So I fixed them. So now that works. Pass that's 5. The height is 5. As you can see, it's getting filled. And once it's filled, it says the flask is now full. Plus side, that will be better. You can pass any parameter. Actually, it can be even more. It can be 20, maybe 10. It's 100. So let's see. So we'll be trying to integrate the whole game with the pool score. So all the clients connected to the room should see the same image, exactly the same image. Alright, I think I'll stop in here. And we'll make another video on integrating the Flash game with the full score. Thanks for your attention.